Here with Shelton School Superintendent Wyeth Jessee. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jeff.
It's been a while since we caught up, so kind of can cover a whole bunch of different topics. Let's just kind of throw it out there. What's been new in the district? How are the different schools going? And what's some updates you can share with the public?
Yeah, we just keep moving along on our strategic plan. I talked a lot with you about literacy and college and career readiness. Those are big topics for us. Safe and welcoming environment's been going on since I've been here. So those are all those things. But, all areas are taking place. And I think in particular, the school I'd love to showcase, which we don't talk much about, is Choice.
Oh, yeah.
Choice has been here for a long time. Multiple generations have gone through that school. And it serves a very, I think, vital and unique role in this community. As I like to say, it's kind of more of a family therapeutic setting where you come in and they wrap their arms around you as a student and the families as well. And just how can we help you where you're at in your journey? And so that you ultimately can be ready for life, college and career ready. Those are, really important things. Unfortunately, sometimes some students in their journey need more support and more intensive supports. And so this year, we had a full-time mental health therapist there at the school, in addition to our already half-time therapist that does drug and alcohol. And it's something we just knew we needed. We had a full-time counselor there. The principal, Vern Bruni, is really well equipped to handle kids' social emotional learning needs. So they can help support, but this mental health therapist is a true clinician, can really support kids that just need more wraparound supports and how to just navigate life, and all the things that high school can throw at you. That's just a lot to handle for a lot of our students. And so they've done a tremendous turnaround there. The staff have worked really hard. Ninth grade on track. They look like they're right there on their goal of getting a percentage of their students on track and making sure, they get those 6 credits at the end of their freshman year, which is a huge deal for us, right? Yeah. The statistics and the research will bore it out. You got your 6 credits at the end of your freshman year, you're way more likely to graduate on time, and that's ultimately what I do. So it's just a big kudos to them. We've actually, we've gone back out there and we got 19 students that were not enrolled in school this last year. This current year.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the program. We do an open doors program. We started there this year. So we found 19 kids out in the community that, were not in school, and bring them in. And, there's some basic statistics that tell you why a little bit around what they are, experiencing homelessness or having a kid. Those are kind of some of the issues that face them. And most of them are working, Jeff. Most of those kids are working. They got a job. They're trying to get by. Hard to be in school, obviously, but this open doors after school program, we can be flexible and help them get a degree, their high school diploma, so they can move on.
Was the school model of Choice new for you when you came into the Shelton School District? Did they have something similar up in Seattle?
Oh yeah, there's definitely, these programs exist in most, medium to obviously larger districts. So always have these kind of things, like Olympia's school district, for example. They got Avante, and they got their things there. And it's just a smaller setting, and some ways to customize it. They call them ALE, alternative learning experiences, where it's really a customized way of looking at it and working so that the system flexes to meet the needs of the students, as opposed to the student have to flex based on where the school's at, right? Like, so traditional school, like 6 periods, here's all your courses, select one, and work in it. And, obviously school choice, student choice has something to do with it, but it's still pretty traditional. It's got a lot of rigidity to it. These kind of schools, like Choice, have a lot of flexibility, so I'm very familiar with them. But one of the things that we've had to shift, especially with the opening of Cedar High School, was to get off of that 6-period day, not having to be rigid around it. And that's what they were doing. And so getting off of that, not having to rely on it for some students who need that flexibility, is really worked out for us. And some kids just don't do well being around in a big class.
Yeah.
And some adults don't either.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And so anyway, that's, it's not unique, but it is in the sense of like having this alternative experience. It is unique in about how much variety, and they have had that variety of program there. Keep working it to best meet the needs of our students here in Mason County.
When it comes to the end of the school year, what can you say to the parents out there where at the end of the day, when all the numbers are calculated, the credits are all there. If you go to Cedar, if you go to Choice, if you go to Shelton, it all works towards that graduation process.
I love that question. That's another thing I've been working on. Getting here, we had 3 separate high schools. Now we have 3 high schools that work together.
Okay.
And so we have kids from Cedar and Choice who go up and take some classes at SHS at Shelton High School, just because it's they can offer more too, right? Like, so you get something out of that, right? And so, but some kids want to take some project-based learning. You can go to Cedar. Some kids that are maybe experiencing some not so much success or some bumps in the road. Hey, let's send you down to Choice and get some more supports, and have that flexibility and wrap around needs, wherever the kids, the students coming from, we can help match it. And that's why I like how we can share the resources that we have and the uniqueness of those 3 high schools to do. We can really support students no matter where they're at and where they want to go.
Let's talk a little about safe and welcoming schools. I saw that Shelton was on Cairo 7 a couple weeks ago for some things. Now we don't have to get into that specifically, but when it comes to incidents like that, how does it work from your position down in auditing the situation, in doing the due diligence, the checks on stories and things like that?
So it's really important for everyone to know that we do investigate everything. We need to find out what's going on, what's the root cause of some of the challenges that we have. Is it a student level? Obviously there's a lot of incidents involving students that we want to figure out. That from the small things of like, hey, someone took my pencil, to vaping situations, to obviously fighting. And so really trying to figure that out for 2 reasons. One is the student. What do they need? What do we have to do to wrap around them so they can learn ways to handling situations or conflict in a healthy way? So we've got that in spades here. We got a lot of personnel. We're doing some additional training this fall around kind of a behavior modification. So I have staff more equipped to handle more challenging behaviors. They just had a huge article out there in the New York Times just on this issue. It's just, there's a lot more discipline, a lot more mental health issues. To see things where kids are more explosive saddens me. But it's more about, okay, so then as a district, what are we going to do to better support them? And increasingly, public education is being relied on to address a lot of needs: physical health, mental health, basic food, and supplies. Hey, this is what we do. And so we got to match that, right? And so whatever those kind of troubling situations, they are a tip-off of something else needs to be addressed, both at the student level and then this other area, which is the program. So are we set up to really get our kids really ready to go? Do we need to do more training for our coaches? Do we know how to read red flags in situations? What should we do in those red flag situations? And so should a student be situated and seated until you feel like they're cooled off, for example? Then there's other ones around, looking at how we program things, how we're set up, making sure that we do all the things, not only in a sense of prevention and training, but also oversight, right? So who is supposed to oversee those things? Are you checking in? And when things don't look right, who are you corresponding with to obviously be a thought partner or to check around what ultimately our policies and procedures are? So those are always at play. There's a lot going on. You got 40, 200 kids and 700 staff, and so there's a lot of things in motion, and a lot of people are trying to do their best on a daily basis, but things will happen. And so how is we as a district going to respond to it? Want to not only try to prevent those situations, but to ultimately heal in a good way, right? And so those are not my favorite moments, Jeff.
Oh yeah.
But they are what every district has to wrestle with. Some get more high profile than others. But that the thing is, as you mentioned, we're trying to be a safe and welcoming environment for our kids. And so if we don't learn from it, we're going to repeat the problems.
Does that include, learning the coping skills in the elementary levels for the children there? And then when it comes to staff training, is it role playing that happens, or just reading or PowerPoints, or how does that work?
Well, I haven't been in this field now for 25 years, Jeff.
Yeah.
It definitely has to be ongoing training.
Yeah.
Like those trainings have to be, sometimes you're just reviewing the same material that you did 15 years ago. But there's always new wrinkles. And each generation of students different. I bet your parenting style, Jeff, is different than what the parenting style is that you got as a kid.
Yeah.
And that's just because this generation, you hear it, and we can complain about some of those changes, but they're inevitable. It's inevitable. We're gonna adapt as human beings, and so districts are no different. We've got to adapt, keep those trainings going. I love scenarios. I love role playing because they really help the adults here in the district really think about things they're wrestling with and try it on for size, get some feedback, keep working on it because we're always trying to grow and be better. And so that's what I was trying to mention. Like we're doing some really intensive training. Like it's going to be a course for select staff that deal with students who have come across those kids that again are more intensive behaviors, and some of those are internalizers too. Sometimes you just don't even see it, Jeff. But those are sometimes the kids that are doing self-harm, and so we're doing deep training, get them ready, get it going, and then we'll keep training again. Right? You just got to keep cycling through it for them, and then the kids, like where we start young, yeah, sure, it goes all the way through. So a lot of that that's why we have a goal of safe and welcoming environment. Because if you come to a classroom, Jeff, and it seems calm, and the routines in the classroom, your role every day as a student, when to get up, how to go get your books, that are over in your cubby, when to come to circle time, what you have to do to sit crisscross applesauce. You're getting rewarded and recognized for it. It's feeling positive. Your teacher cares for you. And ultimately that you've got really good learning going on. You can access it as a student. We get those things going on. So many other issues go to the sideline. When you don't have it going on, more issues come out. And then when issues start small, they can grow and be a lot bigger issues than they ever should have been.
I've been talking with our 35th District Representatives, Dan Griffey, Travis Couture, and Senator McEwen, and they're kind of coming towards the budget time of legislature, and the guys have been talking a lot about there's a surplus now in the state, and they want to try to encourage the powers that be there in the ledge that we need to work on more funding for education, special education especially. Mentioning too that maybe not fully funding those special education opportunities for people here across the state. Really, how much does that impact the district here?
Well, typically from federal dollars, federal and state dollars for special education, it's 40%, Jeff. 40%.
Wow.
So the other 60% is borne on, your local education association, your local districts.
Sure.
So there's a long way to go there. And I trying to be a realist as a former special education teacher and administrator, I know my thing is, sure, you can help fund those things because it can help support the rest of all the other students, right? Because you're trying to move those dollars to truly help those kids with disabilities, and so that you can use some of your other resources to support, right, other populations. Jeff, there's always going to be kids with needs, right? And those kids with disabilities, the outcomes don't look very good. But when we can, again, like I was trying to say, like you got a great environment that's inclusive and kids can come in and they're being part of that, those dollars help support that counselor, that additional mental health therapist, the additional support that you can get for after school activities and stuff like that. All those things really are important for kids with disabilities and not with disabilities. And then even getting kids who exit, they may have disabilities that allow them to no longer require an IEP. And those are just things that are just not discussed. So you brought up money. I look at it as one of those things where I say, yeah, we could use the more funding. inflation got us too.
Sure.
And so the basic funding of how those dollars get separated and given to districts can be important, but ultimately making sure that those monies are used to create effective outcomes for all students, and obviously including kids with disabilities, near and dear to my heart.
Well, we passed the 100-day mark, so we're on the downward slide here. What are we looking forward to at the end of this school year and moving into next year?
Yeah, I love that question. Right now, I'm just trying to wrestle down on a lot of literacy, a lot of work around kids reading, and I've been in classrooms. I can't tell you how many kids are just loving reading and doing work. We're trying to work on getting them to read books that are a little bit more challenging for them, or maybe on genres or topics that they're not always interested. So that's kind of our next step in that realm. And so that's a lot of on as educators, just trying to figure out all those moves. And then, before you know it, summer school's coming up, trying to figure out the balance of those kids who need some more support over the summer, plus some enrichment activities. We're trying to really get kids that traditionally didn't think about college or a more rigorous trade school. And so making sure that they get up on their reading and especially math, because that is a requirement to be successful in a lot of occupations. So just working on those things. That's really kind of one last one, hiring. And so we're just trying to really get on. Right now we're heading into the recruitment season, so we're trying to hire the best and brightest as fast as we can.
Mm-hmm. Do you mainly look in Washington, or is it kind of like an Indeed thing where it's open to the country?
Yeah, well, things are open, but most of our hires, Jeff, come from within state.
Right.
A lot of people who are coming here to the Shelton School District know about Shelton because they've been living here in Washington State. So that's really where our almost all of our recruitment comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many new teachers would you say come in, or is it more lateral?
Depends on the year. More new teachers is generally who we hire. Surprisingly, Jeff, a lot of second career people who might have tried some things out. You don't have to necessarily think of them as way older in age, but there are a lot of people who are just, have been trying something on for a handful of years, and they go, I'm going to get my teaching certificate. And so then, you get people late in their late 20s show up at the door and start to try to be a teacher. So we welcome that, of course.
That's great.
So you get all sorts of strides, but most of them are new teachers, or not somebody who's transferred necessarily from another district.
Good conversation today. Superintendent Wyeth Jessee from the Shelton School District. Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jeff. Appreciate it. Anytime.
Perfect.